Somewhere in Carthage, in the year 203, a young woman sat down in a prison cell and began to write. She wrote by lamplight, a nursing infant at her side, quill on parchment. She wrote about her father's tears, about a bronze ladder reaching into heaven, about a dragon she stepped on with her bare foot. She wrote it all down because she knew no one else would. Not a scribe, not a historian, no one. Her diary is the oldest document in a Christian woman's own words in the history of the world. The last entry ends the morning of March 7th, 203 AD. After that, someone else had to hold the pen. The city and the edict. Carthage, 400 years old and still magnificent, second only to Rome in the empire's western reach. Wide marble streets, temples to every god the Romans could name. The smell of the sea pressing in from every direction because the Mediterranean nearly surrounded the place. Carthage sat on a peninsula and it acted like it knew it. This was not a city where you expected to die for what you believed. It was a city where you expected to live very well. Trade flowed through the harbor. The baths were heated. The games drew crowds that filled the amphitheater to the top tier. Life was good if you had standing, and Vibia Perpetua had standing. The emperor at the time was Septimius Severus, a North African himself born in Leptis Magna, not far from Carthage. He had ruled for a decade, and for most of that decade, he had been tolerant of religious difference. Christians were not loved, but they were not hunted either. Then came 202 AD and everything shifted. An imperial edict, short, precise, converting to Christianity or Judaism, was now punishable by death. Not the faith itself if you were born into it, the act of crossing over, becoming. That was the net, and it was cast specifically for new believers. In Carthage that year, 5 young converts walked straight into it: Revocatus, Felicitas, Saturninus, Secundulus, and among them, Vibia Perpetua, nobly born, liberally educated, 22 years old, a nursing infant at her breast. She had a father, a mother, 2 brothers, one of them also a new convert, a husband who goes unnamed in the record, absent from the story in a way that says everything. She was the kind of person Rome could not afford to let die publicly. Young, educated, beloved, and she knew exactly who she was. Before the dungeon, there was her father. His name is not recorded, but his grief is. Every word of it was preserved because she wrote it down herself. He came to her while she was still under house arrest to argue her case. He was not by any account a cruel man. He was a father who loved his daughter beyond words and beyond reason and beyond what the law allowed him to do about it. She wrote the conversation down. She pointed to a vessel on the floor and asked him whether it could be called anything other than what it is. He said no. Well, she wrote, so too I cannot be called anything other than what I am, a Christian. He moved toward her as if he would tear her eyes out, stopped, left. She wrote that he departed vanquished along with his diabolical arguments. She called the separation a gift, read that slowly. She was not cold. She was not ruthless. She was 22 years old and she had already learned to grieve standing upright. They were baptized and then the soldiers came. The dungeon was worse than anything she had imagined. She had been raised in a house with fountains and wide courtyards. She was not ready for the dark or the heat or the press of bodies. What a difficult time it was, she wrote. The heat was stifling. The soldiers extorted us. Above all, I was tortured with worry for my baby. She was allowed eventually to keep the infant with her in the cell. The walls did not move back. The guards did not leave. But listen to what she wrote. My prison had suddenly become a palace so that I wanted to be there rather than anywhere else. Her father returned, not with anger this time, with everything that remained. Have pity on my gray head. Have pity on me, your father. If I have favored you above all your brothers, if I have raised you to reach this prime of your life, do not abandon me to be the reproach of men. Think of your brothers. Think of your mother. Think of your child who will not be able to live once you are gone. Give up your pride. You will destroy all of us." He kissed her hands. He threw himself at her feet. He called her not his daughter, but lady. She wrote, "I was sorry for his sake, because he alone of all my kin would be unhappy to see me suffer. Not I almost changed my mind. Not I wavered, sorry and steady both at once." This is what costly grace looks like when it counts the family as the cost. Not cold resolve, not fanaticism, a daughter watching her father fall apart and refusing to lie to him about who she was. The ladder and the dragon, in the darkness of the cell, her brother came to her, the one who had also converted. He asked her to seek a vision of what awaited them, not out of idle curiosity. They all knew what Roman law demanded. He needed to know if there was anything on the other side of it. She promised him, "I will tell you tomorrow." That night she saw a ladder of tremendous height made of bronze reaching all the way to the heavens. So narrow only one person could climb at a time. To its sides were fixed every kind of weapon: swords, spears, hooks, daggers, spikes. If you climbed carelessly, if you looked down, the iron would find you. And at the foot of the ladder, a dragon, enormous, waiting. Satyrus, their teacher, went first. He had not been arrested with them. He gave himself up voluntarily afterwards when he could have walked away into safety and silence. He climbed the ladder, reached the top, and looked back down. "Perpetua," he called, "I am waiting for you, but take care, do not let the dragon bite you." She said, "He will not harm me in the name of Christ Jesus." The dragon slowly lifted his head as if in fear of her. She placed her foot on him, used him as her first step, and climbed. At the top, an immense garden opened before her. In the midst of it, a tall, gray-haired man in shepherd's clothing, milking sheep in the early light, with thousands of white-robed figures surrounding him. He raised his head and looked at her. "I am glad you have come, my child." He gave her milk from his hands, and she drank from cupped palms. All around her, the voices said, "Amen." She woke with the taste still in her mouth. Sweet. She could not describe it beyond that. She told her brother immediately. Both of them understood what the vision meant. She wrote that we realized that we would have to suffer, and that from now on we would no longer have any hope in this life. Not despair. She chose the word carefully. Release. Then came a second vision. In the middle of prayer, a name surfaced from somewhere deep in her memory. Dinocrates, her brother, who had died at 7 years old. A disease had taken his face before it took his life. A cancer so disfiguring that his death had been repugnant to all who saw it. She had not thought of him in years, and suddenly there was his name on her lips, and she could not stop weeping. That night she saw him in a gloomy place, parched with thirst, his face still marked. A pool of water nearby, but the rim was too high for him to reach. He reached and could not drink. She woke grieved and prayed for him every night without ceasing. Then a second dream. Dinocrates again, but clean now, well clothed, the wound on his face a scar healed over. The pool had lowered to his waist, a golden goblet beside it full of water, and he drank, and the goblet never emptied. When he was satisfied, he went away to play joyously after the manner of children. She understood. He had been translated from the place of suffering. The visions should feel like ancient frescoes coming to life, reverent, the dragon massive but subdued, the garden luminous, the child's face transforming from horror to wholeness in a single frame. The trial and the last chord. Then they were called to a hearing, and her father brought what she did not expect. Her son, the baby she had nursed through the dungeon heat, whose small weight she had held through every night. Her father held the child toward her at the tribunal. "Perform the sacrifice. Have pity on your baby." Governor Hilarianus had just taken the seat. The man before him was dead, and Hilarianus was filling dead men's positions in a province that did not reward hesitation. He looked down from the tribunal and added his own weight. "Have pity on your father's gray head. Have pity on your infant son. Offer the sacrifice for the welfare of the emperors." She looked at him. I will not. Are you a Christian? Yes, I am. Her father lunged toward her. Soldiers dragged him from the step, threw him to the ground, beat him with rods at the governor's own order. She watched her father beaten, and she wrote, I felt sorry for him, just as if I myself had been beaten. I felt sorry for his pathetic old age. Hilarianus condemned them all, to the beasts. She wrote, we returned to prison in high spirits. High spirits after watching her father beaten. That is not stoicism. That is something else entirely. Something that does not come from within a person, but from somewhere beyond them. She asked for her son back. Her father refused to send him. Then she wrote this without commentary. The child no longer needed her breast, miraculously ceased to hunger for it. Her body, which had been swollen with milk, felt no pain. She interpreted this as grace, the last cord cut gently and not torn. Believers in Iranian prisons today describe the same severing, the same strange provision when everything human is stripped away and something else rushes in to fill the hollow place. The slave who refused to wait. Now the other woman. This story has always had two strands, and if you only tell one, you miss what held them together inside that cell. Felicitas. Her name means happiness. She was a slave, the fellow servant of Revocatus, uneducated, invisible in every record anywhere, until this document reached out and gave her a name. 8 months pregnant when the soldiers took her. Roman law had a provision for her condition. A pregnant woman could not be executed until she delivered the child, which meant she would wait inside the prison while her companions went to the arena. Then face the beast later, separated, alone, strangers watching from the stands. This terrified her more than the death itself. Dying together was one thing. Dying afterwards, the last one remaining, that was something worse. 2 days before the contest, her companions gathered and poured out a single prayer together. Immediately the birth pains came. She gave birth on the prison floor. 8 months, early, hard labor. A guard stood over her and could not stop himself. You suffer so much now. What will you do when you face the beast? She looked up at him from the floorboards. What I am suffering now, I suffer by myself. But then another will be inside me who will suffer for me, just as I shall be suffering for him. A girl, a Christian sister in Carthage, took the child and raised her as her own. Felicitas rested, healed as much as 2 days allowed, and on the morning of March 7th, she stood up ready. The eyewitness who recorded what followed wrote the line that still cuts. She went from one bloodbath to another, from the midwife to the gladiator, ready to wash after childbirth in a second baptism. Noble and slave, educated and unlettered. 2 women who shared a cell and a sentence and a morning. Hold that image. March 7th, 203 AD. Get a Caesar's birthday, the city expected a show. The night before, they were given a free banquet, a last meal that the curious could come and watch them eat. They turned it into something else. Satyrus looked at the faces pressing in and said, will not tomorrow be enough for you? Take careful note of what we look like so you will recognize us on the day. They marched from prison to amphitheater as if going to heaven, calm faces, trembling with joy rather than fear. Perpetua walked with a shining countenance and a steady step, putting down every stare with her own intense gaze. At the gate, soldiers stopped them. The men were ordered into the robes of Saturn's priests, the women into the dress of Ceres' priestesses. Pagan ceremony. Even in death, Rome wanted the final word over their bodies. Perpetua refused to go directly to the officer. We came to this of our own free will, that our freedom should not be violated. We agreed to pledge our lives, provided we would not be compelled to do anything like this. They entered in their own clothes. The men went first, a boar for Saturninus, a leopard for Satyrus, and the crowd roared, well washed, their mockery of baptism in a fountain of blood. The women, they chose a wild cow, deliberate cruelty, a female animal for the female condemned. It tossed Perpetua first. She hit the ground hard, and when she stood, her tunic had torn at the side. She drew it back over herself slowly and reached up to pin her loosened hair. The eyewitness could not look away. She was more concerned with her appearance than the blood. She looked like a matron of Rome walking to dinner. Felicitas had been thrown too. Perpetua went to her and helped her to her feet. The crowd saw this and demanded their lives. Brought to the gate of life still breathing, Perpetua seemed as though she had been asleep. So absorbed in the spirit, she had not known what happened to her body. Her brother came to her there. You must all stand fast in the faith and love one another. Do not be weakened by what we have gone through. Then the center of the arena. The gladiator assigned to her was young, and his hand trembled. He struck, and she screamed as he caught the bone. He had not found the place. She reached up, took his shaking hand, and guided it to her own throat. The eyewitness wrote these words carefully because he had seen it happen. Perhaps so great a woman could not else have been slain, who was feared by the unclean spirit, had she not herself so willed it. Believers in northern Nigeria today, burned alive for their faith, forgive their attackers with the same steadiness, the same otherworldly composure, not manufactured, something that arrives from outside a person when everything inside has already been surrendered. The diary survived 18 centuries, copied by hand, circulated through the churches of North Africa, and read aloud to congregations who could not stop reading it. 200 years after her death, Augustine preached about Perpetua and had to warn his people not to elevate her writings above the canon, because they were already doing exactly that. Her voice, first person, unmistakably hers. The vase and the dragon and the garden and Dinocrats healed, and her father's tears and then her final words to her brother in the arena enclosure. Stand fast, love one another,